Hello and welcome to my channel where we will be filming my March and April wrap-up. So hopefully you will have seen my January and February wrap-up before this one, and this one will be significantly shorter, I promise you, because I didn't read very many books in March. March and April, I guess, but March specifically was a very and audiobook heavy month, so I don't have a lot of physical books to show you, unfortunately. But this also gives me a little bit of an opportunity to talk about them a little more in depth without boring you so much. So the first book that I read, I was trying to complete as many series as I could in March, so I decided to pick up the next book in the Hamster Princess series, Giant Trouble. If you don't know what the Hamster Princess series is, it basically takes a twist on all of the fairy tales we know and love, but centers them around a hamster princess named Harriet. In the first book, we find out like she's invincible, and hold on, I sneeze. Oh, sorry. In the first book, we find out like she's invincible because she went through this curse with this fairy and all that, and it has since, gone on from there. And this one was a spin on Jack and the Beanstalk, in which Harriet's pet quail eats one of the beans that this guy is trying to sell her for the quail, and ends up pooping out a beanstalk. So she climbs to the top of it and gets up there, and all of the mayhem ensues, and I really like it. I think this whole series is such a cute series. I have since caught up with it. I don't know if I'll talk about that a little more later. But Harriet is just one of those just badass female characters that you love and you want your children growing up to admire, because she doesn't care. She doesn't particularly want to be a princess. She wants to be a knight. She wants to be somebody that princesses look up to. She wants to be the one saving the damsels in distress. So I really enjoy that about this series. This book in particular, I think I really enjoyed. Probably not exactly a 5-star, but more of a 4-star, because it was still really funny, and we get to see like a lot of previous characters as well as meeting some new ones. So I did really enjoy that as a 4-star read overall, as I feel like the majority of the series is. I don't think any of them are full on 5 stars as much as it's like a solid 4-star series. The next one, again continuing the series theme, I continued the Magic Misfits series with the second story. It's literally called the second story. That's not just me saying the second story. But this series follows the Magic Misfits, who are a group of children who all get together to do magic and solve mysterious crimes that are going on in their town. The first one followed Carter. This one follows Layla. We learn a little bit more about her adoption. She was adopted from an orphanage. We don't know a ton about her parents, or we don't know anything about her parents. We know her adopted parents. And so we kind of see her side of this story as we learn more things that the second book, or the first book, kind of delved into. So I can't really go into too much of an explanation about this without giving away anything from the first book. But in general, this is one of the cutest little books. If you don't know, it's written by Neil Patrick Harris, the actor. And he does such a great job at writing middle grade. It's just one of those books that like keeps you hooked. It has you laughing and also on the edge of your seat trying to figure out what's going on and where this story is headed. And the audiobooks, if you can listen to the audiobooks as well as reading along physically, because it does have they do have some illustrations in them. If you can listen to the audiobooks, I highly recommend it. The first one is entirely narrated by Neil Patrick Harris, but then I think there's a different narrator every time you read a book, so it sounds like it's coming from their perspective. Probably one of the best middle grade series that I've read in a while. And then I continued on with the third book, so I jumped right into the third book after that, and that one's called The Minor Third, and this one follows Theo. Theo is one who is caught between both music and magic because he loves both. His family is kind of trying to push him towards music, well, obviously the magic misfits want him to focus on magic and helping them figure out what's going on in their city, because a lot of, I'm trying to keep it as vague as possible, but a lot of bad things are kind of centering around their town and them as well. So we follow Theo in this one, and I will say Theo wasn't my favorite perspective to read from, but the story in general definitely got more intriguing as the story progressed. I think the only reason I might give this one a little bit of a lower rating was because I loved Layla's perspective so much, and I loved her story and the things we got to learn from book 2. Book 3, well, the stakes were definitely much higher, and we got to see more of a conflict. I definitely think it was just a little bit of a letdown after book 2. And then I was able to get the next book of the Hamster Princess series. I read a lot of the Hamster Princess series this month, but the next one was Whiskarella, of course a take on Cinderella, where Harriet's mother really wants to hold these balls to find her a prince. However, they're going to be masquerade balls because all of the princes in the neighboring kingdoms want nothing to do with Harriet because they know her reputation. And of course and a mysterious visitor ends up showing up at the ball and kind of taking the attention away. So we have to figure out who is coming to these balls dressed up as this princess and why. Again, really cute, solid 4 stars. I loved the illustrations, I loved the characters, yada yada yada. And then I picked up Tunnel of Bones, the next one in the Cassidy Blake series. This one I really enjoyed this one, I think more than the first book. This one, we are in Paris, where we follow Cass and Jacob, I think his name is Jacob, as they're dealing with this poltergeist. I definitely enjoyed this one more than the first. I enjoyed the reading about the lore and following them along on this adventure. I think the first one I gave a 3-star. This one I gave a 4, just because we could see, like, this is one of those rare cases that the sequel was better than the first book, because we got a little bit more into the background of everything and everybody, and we're like, not only are we learning more about like the TV show that her parents are part of, but like learning more about Jacob, who is her best friend who is a ghost. And then lastly, we caught up or finished the Hamster Princess series with Little Red Rodent Hood. This one is, I don't know if it's the final book or if the series is just on a hiatus for a little bit. Everywhere I've looked on the author's websites, everywhere, it says nothing about the next book, but it also doesn't say it's the final book. So this one obviously follows the story of Little Red Riding Hood. She comes up to Harriet and asks her for help slaying these creatures. I forget the names of them off the top of my head, but she asks for Harriet's help, and it doesn't take long for Harriet to realize that something fishy is going on here. Again, I can't say too much about this one without going into full spoiler territory, but I thought it was super cute. We can just put a counter in every time I say super cute. But I really do like this series, and I hope there's more, because this series has so much potential to continue on. And I love it. I love it so much. Oh, actually, no, we can't, because I need to talk about the book that I DNF'd. And that's in the other room, and I don't want to go get it. So I don't have a physical copy sitting in front of me, but I ended up DNFing Jurassic Park. That was, if you watched my April TBR, that was the book that, one of the books that Connor chose for me to read. And I don't know, I started it on ebook, and I was just reading it like whenever I had a chance to. I just wasn't getting into it. I think I got almost 100 pages in before I finally decided just like it wasn't worth my time. Didn't really like it. I've never seen the movies, so maybe I'll like the movies more when I decide to watch them at some point, or if I decide to watch them at some point. But the book just unfortunately was not for me, so I ended up DNFing it. It wasn't a book that I had planned on reading. In general, it is Benson's book, so it's not one that I'm super disappointed by. It wasn't one that I had ever had on my radar. So unfortunately I DNF'd that one. The next one, though, was much better. I ended up reading the next part of the Avatar: The Last Airbender comic series. This is a bind-up of all 3 books in The Search. And this was so satisfying. So if you watch the show, you know there are some questions that were left unanswered, specifically about Zuko and what is her name? Zuko and Azula's mother. And we actually get answers in this one. So this one I gave a 5-star. I really enjoyed getting to read more from these characters again and being with them and just following their stories, and I really wish the series continued. I know a lot of people are going to tell me in the comments that Korra exists, but I just want more from this world and these characters. I'm going to be really, really upset when I run out of comics, just because I enjoy this book and this world, this series, these characters so much. The next one is another one that Connor picked for me, and it's one of my most surprising reads of the year. One of my most surprising reads ever, because this again is one of Benson's books that I was not planning on reading or picking up at all, and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 4-star. That is Master and Apprentice. This is a Star Wars book following Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi during Obi-Wan's apprenticeship. And first of all, I started reading this physically and I was really enjoying it, but I needed something like an audiobook to bring with me on my walks. So I ended up picking up the audiobook for this one just to help me get through my TBR a little like easier. And definitely if you can pick up the audiobook for this one, if you're interested in the Star Wars books and you can pick up the audiobook for this one, it is so interactive and so immersive. Like when there are lightsaber duels, like you can actually hear the sound effects, and yeah, and it's like that through the whole thing. Like you get the robotic voices when certain characters are talking, and it's such a good book. Like the story in itself was really intriguing, and like Qui-Gon is one of my favorite characters from Star Wars in general, so I was really sad that we only got to see him in one movie. So knowing that there are books where we can still follow his character, it is definitely like eye-opening to me, and like it's really exciting to me so that I can actually follow more from this character. So thank you, Connor. I know you're watching. You watch like every single one of my videos. Thank you for picking this, because I don't think I would have picked it up without you making me, and I would not have discovered that the audiobook it's probably one of my favorite audiobooks of all time. All right, so we just got here, so we're gonna try to do the next ones pretty quickly. I finally continued on the Land of Story series with book 3. This was a 5 out of 5 star read, as the other ones have been. This one picks up where the second book left off, so obviously I cannot give you too much of a synopsis about this one specifically, but The Land of Stories follows Alex and Connor, whose father has passed away, and their grandmother, to help them cope with this, gives them a storybook, a family heirloom storybook, and they discover that they can jump into this world through that storybook, and the story continues on from there. I don't know if it was my favorite of the three, but I definitely enjoyed being back in this world and being immersed. I can't tell you why I loved it, why I really enjoyed this one so much, because it goes into spoiler territory, but the series in general and the way this left off on such a cliffhanger, if I didn't have so many reading plans coming up, then I think I would have picked, or if I didn't have so many reading plans for the rest of the month, then I probably would have jumped like right into the next book. Unfortunately, I could not, but I'm looking forward to continuing and finishing the series. I do have book 4. I need to get the next 2 books to actually finish the series, but I love this. I love this series so much. I love these. I just love it. I love it. I love it. The next one is the last Connor pick that I actually got to read. He did pick one more that I didn't get to finish. Unfortunately, packs and everything got in the way. But the next one is the Zodiac Legacy, which is another one that I was not planning on picking up, and one that I ended up picking up the audiobook for. And then I discovered that it has illustrations in it. This follows, hold on, I'm just gonna read from the back of the book because I feel like it's really hard to say anything about this without spoiling too much. But it says, when 12 magical powers are unleashed on the world, a Chinese-American teenager named Steven will be thrown into the middle of an epic global chase. He'll have to master strange powers, outrun dangerous mercenaries, and unlock the mysteries of the Zodiac. This was such a good book, and again, not one that I had planned on picking up, so maybe I'm gonna have to have Connor on here at some point to pick out some books for me that are not on my shelf, because he clearly picked some really great ones. But like I said, I really enjoyed this. I feel like I was sucked into the action right away, and it kept up that pace for the entirety of the book. And there are more, and I figured out this was a series. There are more. So I'm really excited to go and pick those up, because not only was the story fantastic, but the illustrations in here are absolutely beautiful. And this is not, like I said, this isn't a story that I think I would have gravitated towards if it wasn't forced upon me. So thank you, Connor. You did a great job picking some books this month. Thank you. The next one is one that I chose for myself and ended up Anyway, 7 Viking romances. I feel like this was fine for the first couple of stories, and then it just felt like really repetitive. I felt like I was reading the same stories just with different character names over and over again. And so I don't think I rated this one, but I think it's probably bordering a 3-star, which I'm kind of sad about, because this was such a mood read pick, because I was in such a mood to pick this one up. Yeah, so it's just 7 short stories from Viking lore. And yeah, honestly, for some of these were like 20 pages long, and it still took me forever to read, just because I feel like I was reading the same sentence over and over and over again. The next one I read, I gave a 4-star read, just because I think I had the same problem. It felt a lot longer than it was. This is only a 300-page book, and I think between the font and the story itself, it just felt a lot longer than that, and not necessarily in the best way. But that is The Imaginary Corpse. This is one I heard about from Ashley from A Frolic Through Fictions page. She ended up getting this book box that featured some underhyped books, and that's where I heard about this one. But this follows Tippy, the Triceratops detective, who lives in a world called the Still Real. And basically it's a world where if you've ever had an idea, and that idea, like, for some reason, or like I can't explain this properly. Right, have you ever had an idea, but you had to abandon that idea for some reason? Most of the time, they're pretty upsetting and tragic reasons. Something starts happening in this world, and people and ideas start dying. And Tippy takes it upon himself to figure out what's going on and try to keep as many people from getting hurt as possible. And I really enjoyed this, other than the fact that, like I said, it felt a little too long, even only for 300 pages. This was such a creative story choice, and it's like on the back here it says it's compared to Toy Story meets Sin City, and I think that is such a good comparison. And it's probably one of my favorite mysteries that I have ever read. It was so greatly executed, and we had a lot of really interesting, intricate characters that we all got to know, really complex characters that we all got to know and love. And I'm pretty sure this is a standalone, which I'm sad about, because I would love so much to continue on in this world, even if it's not necessarily with Tippy, if it's just with any of the other characters, getting to know more of their backstories and why they're in the Still Real. It's just really intriguing to me, and I really, really enjoyed this story, and I hope more people get to discover this as well. Lastly is a book that I read on audio. I was doing the Magical Readathon, which is hosted by G, and the last book I needed to complete my career was a book set in the future, which I didn't have any that I would have been able to finish, so I ended up borrowing Remote Control for this prompt from the library, and I listened to the entire thing on audio. It's a really short book. It was only a 4-hour long audio, which to me, I listened to it on double speed. It took me 2 hours to finish. But this is one that's really hard to talk about without giving too much away, because it's a really short novella. But this follows a young girl. She's said to be the adopted daughter of the Angel of Death. Pretty much everywhere she goes brings death. And like I said, I can't talk about it the synopsis too much without giving it away, because it's such a short read, and I feel like that is where my problem laid with it. I gave it a 3-star just because with me, novellas are such a hit or miss. I usually feel like they are too short, which is what I feel like for this one. I feel like I didn't really get to spend a lot of time in the world, and I didn't really get to spend a lot of time with the character. Like, I would have loved getting to see more of the world building. It's set in a near futuristic Ghana, which is a place that I don't think I've ever read from before. And I would have loved to see more of that world, get more of that setting, and I don't feel like we got to with how short it is. It's only 156 pages. So I really wish that I had gotten to learn more about the character, about the world, and about just the whole situation. Unfortunately, I did not, so it only got a 3-star, and I will definitely be looking into more books set like with this kind of setting, because this definitely got me intrigued to learn more. With that being said, this is definitely a much shorter video than the last one. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked that video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more from me, as well as Benson, who is a frequent member on this channel. I will leave all of his links down in the description box below, as well as links to my social media if you want to get any more updates from me. Thank you so much for watching once again, and have a great day.